because we've got a lot of things that we want to cover today. We want to hear as much as we can from Laura and Marc. So I just want to say, welcome to the ones that were able to get on. And for those, there are a few that were not able to jump in tonight. And so we're going to get it posted afterwards so that more people can participate. So I just want to say hats off to you that were able to come in. So I just have a couple things I want to read that I took off of a focus on the family. And it goes like this. In a sex-saturated culture, waiting till marriage seems outdated and prudish. Abstinence seems archaic and impossible. Why wait for the goods when everyone is getting it now? Well, that's a good question. And so I have asked Marc and Laura if they would come in and share their experience. And as maybe people that are Christians, we know that the Bible talks about, sex is for marriage and marriage is for sex. And God has instructed us, like I looked up verses and there are over 100 just in the New Testament about, concerning sexual immorality or just what the purpose of sex is. So there's a lot of talk in the Bible about sex. And yet it's a subject that nobody wants to talk about. So we're going to talk about it today and just try to maybe unpack how we can impact culture, how we can pursue sexual integrity in a sex-saturated culture. So with that being said, I just want to say welcome to Laura and Marc, our guests. And I don't know how to get you back in to the main screen, but if you can say a word, I think you'll come up into the main screen. There we go. And I'm so honored to have you join us, Marc and Laura. And I know that you're getting ready to leave Ontario, come back to Alberta, and get on the plane and fly to Holland soon. And so it's a very packed time for you, but you were willing to jump in and do this. So thank you. So I don't want to take the floor. We want to hear from you. I thought it would be good if you could introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about who you are and how long you've been married and maybe what your immediate vision for your life is.
Yeah, thank you for having us, Auntie Bonnie. I said today already, you've been our biggest cheerleader, so that's really fun and very exciting. So very fun. Yeah, you want to start?
Oh, well.
Where we are.
So we're currently in Ontario. We're staying with my uncle because he is from Holland. We met at a hostel in Amsterdam, at a Christian hostel. And
I did, not your uncle.
Yes, but we got married almost 4 months ago now.
Yeah.
And we're staying in Ontario because we have somewhere free to stay right now because we are waiting for his permanent residence. So yeah. In doing that, we're here for 3 months, and then we're going to be going to Holland for another 3, and then seeing where God has us go from there.
Yeah, my parents are there, and so really nice to spend some time with them. My mom hasn't met Laura yet, so yeah, that'll be special and good. And we met in Holland. That's where our friendship started there, and now we're going back married. So that'll be a fun adventure to explore together. And yeah, we're excited and feel super blessed and very grateful for all the opportunities and blessings from friends and family. So it's been a crazy season getting married. I've never done it before, so.
Especially during COVID, right?
Yeah. So that's been great and a big blessing. So very, very fun. Yeah. Oh, maybe other people should mute their thing. Otherwise, I think it might switch the screens too often.
Okay, that's a really good idea. Thank you, Marc. So
did you answer the question?
So with that being said, I just wanted to say, like, the sexual act is a hot topic today. you hear about it everywhere. You can't turn on the TV, you can't watch a movie, you can't, I mean, even our children are inundated with, introduced to sex right from birth, whether it's through the advertisements or even children's little movies and stuff like that. So we are really a sex saturated culture, and we're trying to figure out our way through it. And so Marc and Laura, just trying to keep my eyes on the screen. I've let Michelle or Giselle in. So welcome, Giselle. And so glad to have you join us. But anyways, yeah, we're encouraged to enjoy sex and the pleasures it involves. And we've come to look at it as almost like a sport. It's something that is a physical act that has a lot of rewards, and why not do it? But Marc and Laura, you have, I asked you to join us because I observed the journey that you two took in your courtship and in your, becoming man and wife. And your story is a little bit different. And so I thought it would be really awesome if you would share some of the maybe reasons why you chose purity, and maybe some of the challenges in a sex saturated culture. I mean, Laura, you were, I think you were over 30 when you got married. That's a long time to wait. What was your story? What were the challenges that you faced? And same with Marc. And so I just want to open it up to the two of you to talk a little bit about your journey pre-marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
You
who would
go
like?
first.
Okay, I'm gonna go first. Okay. Well, yeah. So I grew up with a mother that was really good at talking about dating, and she had like a couple of different mottos. So one of them was, you shouldn't date someone unless you feel that you're ready to get married. And so for a lot of my early life, the idea of dating was like, oh no, I don't want to date because I don't feel like I want to get married right now. And so that kind of, I think, saved me a lot. Also, my mother would always talk about too, like if a guy holds your hand, he holds your heart. And she would talk about how when you, as a woman, you have this feeling, this desire to be held and to be taken care of. And so even something like holding hands, like your brain will like kind of stop working, and all you'll feel is like, oh, la, 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 la. I'm taken care of, I'm protected, I'm loved. And we might not look at who's doing the that protecting and if they're actually a good match for us. Yeah. So I didn't have a lot of boyfriends growing up, but I had a lot of boys that wished they could be my boyfriend. So that was kind of like a reverse problem that a lot of girls had, because yeah, I was very friendly, I was very outgoing, I was part of a lot of different youth groups and just groups of people, and I always wanted to make sure people were included. And so I had a lot of guys that were my friends, and eventually most of them were like, hey, would you like to be my girlfriend? And I had to say, like, I really like you, but no, I don't want to be your girlfriend. I don't feel like I want to marry you. And yeah, so that was a lot of my early years. Of course, like as a girl, you have this idea of like, I think when I was younger, I did have that idea, like, I don't want to kiss until I get married, and it kind of romanticized it. And then I ended up, when I was in my middle kind of 20s, I started dating a friend of mine. And I remember one of our first date, we went for this walk, and I said, I'll be your girlfriend, but I don't want to kiss, because like something is important to me, and I don't want to. But during the course of dating, there was one point where he would get really close to me. He would sort of try to like get me to kiss him, blah, blah, blah. And I would say, nope, 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 not going to do it, not going to do it, not going to do it. And I was so strong. But then one day he actually called me a prude. And I got so mad that I kissed him. And it's such a sad way to like have this idea of what you want and to like give it away because someone's like taunting you is kind of a very sad way of doing that. I remember kissing and being like, this is not at all what I thought it would be like. I was very like awkward kisser, I guess. I was like, it's like suction cups, so weird. But what was cool about it, what was interesting about it is I right away was like, no, this is not what I want to do. And I tried to backpedal. And what I learned in that experience is that with intimacy, backpedaling is probably it's really, really hard. It's easy to stay strong. It's really hard if you fall into like, say, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. So I tried that. I said, we did kiss, but that wasn't something that I had wanted to do. Let's never do that again. And he's like, no, this makes me feel loved. Everybody does it. Everybody kisses. Everybody does it. And of course, because you've done it once, you think, oh, okay, what's the harm? I'll do it. But inside of me, I knew that I was doing something against what I had a conviction of. My conscience. And so it's not that I look at other people who kiss, like, I mean, it's like extreme common. I don't like look at you and say like, if you kiss your boyfriend, you're like not following the Lord. Like that wasn't the thing, but it was for me that I had decided that and that was my bar. And I completely didn't let that took down that bar. And so one of the things I also remember thinking is like, oh, well, it's okay because we're going to get married. Because when you're a girl and you're in a relationship, you automatically think you're going to marry that person. So I was just like, no, it's fine. We're going to get married. It's okay. And I also think, and so what I learned in that experience is that one, intimacy is something that God does give couples to glue them together, to help them when they're arguing or having a hard time, to help you feel connected and reconcile. But when you're using that before you're married, you don't have a covenant that you're attached to. So what happens is it actually gets used against you in a weird way. So my boyfriend actually had a fairly serious pornography addiction. And I had to wade through that. I remember talking to Auntie Bonnie lots of times and just through that and having hope for him, wanting him to be free. He would go to people and say like for help and they would say, well, I have the same problem, and I kind of left that relationship thinking that all guys had this problem and that there was I knew there were some good men in the world. I had like a really wonderful father figure who was just, always really modeled a godly man for me. But I also knew that the world had a lot. I opened my eyes to a lot of stuff that's going on in the world. So eventually, I broke up with him, and then I just, I went from being not caring if I got married or not really needing to get married to thinking, well, it would be nice to have a life partner. But now I've spent all this time with this one guy and it's not there anymore. And God, it would be nice to have someone to journey in life with. But also being okay to be me. And to say, okay, God, if you want me to go to the Middle East, I'll go to the Middle East. It would be much better if I had a guy with me in the Middle East. But if you just want me to go, I know you'll provide people to come alongside me. And so I'm willing to just be someone with you. And I kind of came to this realization that if I was to get married, I wanted to double the amount of I could do in the kingdom. I said, God, I don't want to get married to someone and then buy a house and do these things and just live my own little life. If I get married, God, I want to be able to do double or triple like what I would do on my own. And so that was really what I was looking for. And I really was just like, God, I want someone who loves people and, like, above all, loves you. And so I had some things in my head that I thought, well, if I was to find someone, that would be really cool. But I wasn't, I was just being prepared, I guess. So yeah, I'm 33 years old, so that's kind of where I am now. And so the story sort of ends at 31. I was 31 when I met Marc, and you can tell your story now. Sorry, that was a little long.
That's why Laura's my Proverbs 31 woman when I met her. And still. So that was really good, really good. Yeah, for me, similar to Laura is that I've actually never had a girlfriend before Laura. So Laura's my first girlfriend, except for Daisy, my dog, and there's still a little bit of competition. And I really actually don't really know why I was never super interested in a romantic relationship. Probably my parents did play a role in that. My dad always was half serious, half joking that no girlfriends before 18. That was kind of just a running joke or comment that was always there, but I don't know if that impacted me that much. And I could get along with girls really well. I still remember in primary school, one of the teachers, who was a woman, was like my best friend. And it was so weird because none of the kids had a teacher as a best friend. And in secondary school too, I had friends that said, Marc, like, you are so good, such good friends with these girls. Like, why are you not making any moves or anything? Like, and I'm like, moves? Like, I didn't never thought about it that way. So I think that's an interesting point. Maybe for both Laura and me, we weren't super desperate or wanting a relationship really bad, which that probably also helped us and protected us from a lot, probably of things. So yeah, to me that was a blessing that Laura is and was my first girlfriend. And with regards to sexuality, I did watch porn for a few years. I think that started when I was maybe 17. And I'm now 26, and I quit maybe 2016. So that's 5 years ago, I think. Yeah, 5 years. Around 5 years, when I came to Canada. So that's a testimony now. So I'm super grateful for that. And I don't know if I was really addicted to porn, because it was quite easy for me to stop somehow. I just had a time where I was like, okay, I'm now in Canada, and this is a good kind of, what do you call that, milestone?
Breaking point.
Like a breaking point to say, I'm going to stop watching this because I don't want to anymore. Because I knew in my heart I was being lukewarm. That's part of my kind of testimony when it comes to Jesus. I was going to church my whole life, but I was quite lukewarm, watching porn, never read my Bible really because I wasn't interested, and things like that. So that changed when I came to Canada. And yeah, so I don't know if I was really addicted, because it was easy to stop, but maybe that was God's grace. So I think we didn't say that we were both virgins when we got married. And that was
okay, so we're going to stop right there, if you don't mind. I'm going to jump in because I don't want you to go down that road yet.
Yeah. Oh, so, I should say I had one thing that is maybe interesting, that will go into the other things, that I did have one girl that I kissed. It wasn't my girlfriend, but it was a girl at university, and she was interested in me. So it was, again, like, I wasn't looking for girlfriends, but this girl told me she liked me, and we ended up kissing. And actually that experience helped me a lot in staying pure, because when I first kissed that girl, I did not know what happened to me. Like, I just got like so overwhelmed with infatuation and in Dutch we call it butterflies. I think in English you use that word different, but just basically like on cloud nine, crazy. And I just couldn't stop thinking about her, and it was like crazy. It was just for 3 days. After 3 days she wasn't interested anymore. So that really something also from God, I think, because I would not have stayed a virgin if that would have depended on me. And so that experience just from kissing her taught me like, oh my goodness, like this is crazy. These feelings I've never felt before. This is so strong. And you are not a rational human being anymore when this comes into play. So I should probably be careful with this. I think looking back, that helped me. So but that will answer the next question. Because did you want us to answer already?
No, I just wanted to jump in and say thank you for sharing your story of sort of the things that helped you maybe not pursue sex in the way that culture was telling you to pursue it, right? Yeah. But nonetheless, you live in the culture, you see the messages, you hear the messages, you know, like Laura, you were pressured from somebody who had bought the message that, you know, at least we can kiss, maybe do more. I mean, your boyfriend was into porn, so obviously he wanted more. And Marc, you know, there were things in your life that protected you too, but what did you do with the culture? How did you handle the messages? Were you kind of you didn't realize those messages were there, or did you know they were there? How did you weed through them if you did?
I think conviction needs to come first. Conviction needs to come first. So it really starts with your relationship with Jesus. Like if there's no conviction that you want to stay pure, then the messages are gonna touch you differently than otherwise. If there's convictions, then the messages will just be a test. And every time you see an ad and you don't look at it, you're like, yes, I'm growing stronger. Yes, I'm growing stronger. I think that's, for me, it's like you get more joy. In the end, you get more joy out of resisting temptation than giving in, because every time you give in, it's short-term pleasure, but afterwards you realize like, wow, that was not worth it really, or like the high is gone.
Why not? Why not? Because that's not what we hear everywhere. Why not? There's a lot of pleasure.
Maybe for guys that's different, maybe too, but it's kind of like having a sugar rush. It's like you eat your sugar and you don't feel like eating sugar anymore. So you were feeling super hungry for sugar, but after not anymore. And if there is even a little tiny bit of conviction, I think it's like when it's like you have two skills, and if the sugar rush is bigger than the conviction, you're going to give into the sugar rush. But if the conviction is bigger than the sugar rush, and I'm just comparing the sugar rush to sex, whatever, and then you can resist it and you can go against it and you can gain and grow stronger. But even if there's a little bit of conviction and you give into the sugar rush, that this rush goes down, but then there's still that conviction that's going to say like, hey, you're going to feel guilty, or right, like you said about your conscience after kissing, it's like your conscience is still there saying like, hey, that wasn't right. So yeah, I think that's why you notice like, oh, that wasn't that great. And they're all, in that sense, then they are like short-term, like instant gratification things. And about the other thing about what did we do to keep this, I think two short things are, I think both our parents did very well with TV. Like they monitored very well what we watched. So that could be something for parents to encourage them, like check out what your kids watch. And my parents would always be turn the TV off if there was inappropriate scenes, or talk about it or say something. And I think that's similar to you.
Yeah, we had like my mom had a pretty strong list of what we could watch and what we couldn't watch, and if we accidentally got something we couldn't watch, we would turn it off. Like we were good kids that way. We were just like, hey, Mom, you actually accidentally bought us an R-rated movie. How did you do this? Like from the library or whatever. We'd be like, or like PG 13 movie. How could you do? You know, so we were really I was really, my mom did a very good job of keeping us pure that way. I mean, now it is harder. I mean, my niece and nephew, they watch the iPad all the time. Like what I had when I was a kid, and what sorry, that was, I need to just
turn it on airplane.
Yeah.
Can you hear us still?
So I think what parents are facing now is different. I know we watched Auntie Bonnie had a documentary that she showed a few years ago about the access that we have. I think when I was growing up, if someone was curious about something sexual, you might look in the encyclopedia and be like, "Ooh, what's a boob?" But like now, if you are a young boy and you type that in, you're gonna get images and videos and all of this stuff coming at you. Yeah. And it's breaking my heart. Probably the next generation are having of girls are having a lot of pressure from boys, more pressure than even my boyfriend gave me, because they're like, no, this is normal, this is normal, this is normal, and it's not normal. They're being fed. And girls are being fed. I have a lot of friends that are girls that or a few that have struggled with that. So how I stayed pure was a lot of, you know, the environment that I grew up in and what my family instilled in me, and a conviction. But yeah, even when I was in that relationship, I definitely had a conviction. I definitely felt guilt. I definitely wrestled. Anxiety would even be something I think I had anxiety attacks over it. Like I was really being pulled in both ways. I remember, and if it wasn't for the strength of my family being like, this isn't who you are, and they weren't necessarily judging me kissing the guy, but they knew that I was not standing for my convictions. And if it wasn't for them, I probably would have married him and had a lot of challenges. So I don't think I did everything right. Definitely I didn't do everything right, but hopefully that can help others in the future. And I'm trying to think what other.
Well, it also helped us to know what we wanted in our relationship.
And one of the things we did do when we first started dating is we actually started doing relationship pre-engagement counseling, which was probably one of the best things that we could have done. We said, we don't know if we want to get married, but if we are dating, we should maybe have an older couple that are wise in this area counsel us. And that actually really helped us, even for me personally, in purity, because I would think, okay, if we slip, I got to go talk to these people and tell them and confess. And so that also helped. Not that they were telling us that, but just in my own spirit, I knew that. So that does help you when you're feeling weak to like be like, nope, this isn't what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
And also because when you said the sex saturated, I was thinking like, I don't get that many temptations or like things of that. And I realized like today I was thinking one of the reasons is because I have an ad blocker on my browser, my web browser. It's called ad block. So I don't get any advertisements, like not on YouTube or not on websites. It's not so nice. Some websites don't like it because they don't make money. But I do realize when I didn't have that, I remember there were lots of porn sites and things like that would just like, you're just opening like the news and all of a sudden there's this naked woman there or whatever. So I realized today, I was thinking like, the ad blocker actually was like I never have ads anymore. So I have no idea. Like that is like huge.
But we did meet on the red light district.
We did meet on the red light district, yeah. Oh, right, that's true.
Literally,
but there too. So there was lots of temptation there, but it in the end it became a game for me. It was really fun with God. That I had to walk to my work, like right past all the prostitutes in the windows, And
So Mark, you're talking about Holland, right? Where prostitution is legalized, right?
In Amsterdam, which is like where people think to go. You literally, the hostel we were living in, it was a Christian hostel, and down the street, if you go one direction, you go to like the fancy dinner area where everyone goes to have dinner and shopping and all that, and if you go to the right on our same street, there the women started. So a lot of times Google would just, you're trying to get from one place to the city to the other, and you're just walking and you're following your map, and all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh, there's a girl. Okay. So there are a lot of women, you just getting on the street it's a big street, and it's very out there. So
Mark, can I just maybe take you back to, you mentioned that you had a period of time in your life when you got involved with porn. And can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, what drug you into that? How did you get access to it, first of all? And what was that experience? What did it do to you? And then why did you feel like you needed to get out of it?
I think I'm noticing more and more, or I'm learning that guys are very visual. So I think just probably from an ad or seeing something somewhere, you see something and your eyes like it or your flesh likes it. And so maybe I clicked on that sometime or something like that. My parents were intentional. They had also what do you call that? Like a filter blocker thing or something on your browser so that you can't go to those websites and stuff. So that was on there for a while, but I knew computers a little bit better than my parents. So I think after a while I figured out how to get around it or something. I don't know. I haven't thought about this a lot. I don't remember that much. So I think I just got sucked into it basically, and I liked it, and it felt good, and things like that. And it did impact the way I looked at women, of course. How
so?
Yeah, definitely as objects. You can see them more as objects, or you undress them in your thoughts, or things like that definitely are not healthy. And part of the reason I wanted to stop with it, lusting. If I see a woman on the street now, I want to pray for them, whether they're beautiful or not. That's like a way. That's how I want to look at women, as my sister or someone I want to bless and pray for or something. So that was what I was going to say about the prostitutes, is that I had to go to work, and I made this game with myself, because normally I would always look down, like, don't look at them. But then I started to realize, hey, there's actually a deeper way that God has for me too, is I'm going to learn to just look them in the face and smile. And so that became the game with myself. It's like not to look at their bodies at all, but just to look at their face and smile as the way Jesus would smile at them, maybe. So that became my game. That was kind of fun in the end too, because then you feel like, it's going well. Anyway, so did that answer the question?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that you started to see women as human beings rather than as objects. Is that what
as objects rather than human beings? Yes. Yeah.
So let's move on to your courtship then, because what I'm hearing the both of you share is that your upbringing had a lot to do with maybe your choices of wanting to be faithful to God. So you had a real strong Christian upbringing, and that kind of set the path for you. But then you met each other and you fell in love, and God gave us the desire to be sexual with the person that we love. And sometimes it's even, like you said, Laura, that we think we love, right? And so how did you manage to get through your courtship, staying faithful to purity, like you felt so strongly that that was something you wanted to keep. Why and how did you do it?
Mm-hmm.
I think one of our first, like the first time we hung out together, it wasn't really like an intentional hangout, but we lived on we both were living at a hostel, so there was lots of, it was a Christian hostel, so there was lots of young people. We were always doing things in groups and big things, and I had asked a couple people if they wanted to hang out, and he said yes, and the other person said no. So we ended up just connecting and talking, and we did share that day some of our story, and it wasn't in a like a romantic way. We weren't interested in each other, but he did share how he had been freed from porn, and that was quite amazing, like to me, because of my background and my story. And I thought, wow, like, that's a really cool thing. And he's like, yeah, and there's other people at the hostel, you can talk to this guy and this guy. We're all like not like we're all committed to walking in purity
and
accountability with each other. Yeah. And so that was a really, really special, cool thing. And I think I shared a little bit of my story about my past relationship. And
so that's where we connected, and you were feeling encouraged.
Yeah, I think we both we both had a similar desire to stay pure. Yeah. If we were married, if we were engaged, if we were not married, if we were single, we wanted to walk in purity. Yeah. Maybe we didn't use that word, but that was kind of a similar thing we both had, just before we were interested in each other.
Yeah, and I had really learned from my experience with that one girl, like, oh my goodness, these feelings are so crazy, like irrational, like if I ever gonna have a girlfriend, I told people before I met Laura, if I'm ever gonna have a girlfriend, I don't want to kiss her until my wedding day, because I was actually not even sure if I wanted to get married. I was like super content single, and sometimes I think I blamed marriage sometimes for people being lukewarm or stuck in a rat race, and I thought that was because of marriage, and so I was really like, getting married for me was not a no-brainer. So when we first started talking, that's partly why we did the pre-engagement counseling. It was like, okay, is this actually a good idea, and how can we keep these feelings kind of low? We want to keep these feelings low so that we can actually figure out, is this actually a good idea, if we are really a good fit and a good match, and before we have all the rose-colored glasses, which we still had rose-colored glasses, but so I think, are we answering the question? I forgot what the question was.
How did we stay pure?
Oh, right. Courtship. Yeah, so I learned a lot from that thing, and I was asking lots of questions, like, do I want to get married? That was my first question, and the second question was, do I want to get married to Laura? And because I wanted a clear answer on those questions, I wanted to stay pure, because I knew that if we were kissing and even we didn't hold hands until we got engaged.
Yeah, we did.
That was also something we said. So one of our first talks, the first one was, you said you didn't want dogs, and then I said I don't want kids, and then probably the third one was, we don't want kids before marriage. Yeah. So it was a very early conversation. It was probably the first talk that we, in our first talk, after we were starting to explore it. So
he softened
and Marc, could you explain why you didn't want to kiss? Like, what was the big deal? Like, the world would say,
well, because of the,
why not?
Yeah, because of the infatuation and the feelings that you get, and it does glue you to someone, and it does make you see them with different eyes, and it makes you really close to that person, and that's really great. That's amazing. That's what kissing is made for. But if you don't want to be close to that person for the rest of your life, and if you don't want to make the commitment, I think that was the biggest thing. The big word is commitment, and I think a lot of my generation and we are kind of scared of commitment, because it feels like we're not free anymore, and that was a big thing for me to overcome, to commitment, fear of commitment. So I think kissing is commitment, and whether you know it or not. And so we didn't want to commit more than we were in.
Yeah, and I think what I had learned in my last relationship is that you're not married until the day you walk down the aisle. So I had one of the other things I had listened to this CD that my mom had got me to listen to when I was younger, and this lady talked about how a wife of godly, it says in Proverbs that a wife of godly character does her husband good and not evil all of the days of her life. And she said that includes when you aren't married. And so even in my last relationship, one of the reasons that I had wrestled so much when I had been physical with this guy is that I didn't know for sure if I thought I was gonna marry him, but we can all hope that we're gonna marry someone and be so sure, and then tomorrow they could get run over by a car or whatever. Like life happens. And so if we haven't actually gotten married, I could be doing my husband wrong. And that just like was one of the reasons that I really struggled. And so when I met Marc, I had to confess to him. I was like, I was in a relationship and I did this thing. And that was one of the first things I had to confess to him. And that's hard. Like to say, like, I wanted to be able to give you this full gift and now I'm giving you a part gift. But I have this commitment that I never want to do the same thing again. I don't want to go back and do what I did again, because I learned from my mistake. I learned what I don't want to do, and I want to do this better. And I want to be someone who like, I want to let you, I think it's also when you're in a relationship as a girl, you feel so connected that even if I had probably 8 or 9, sometimes I think 20, but like a lot of very godly, very wise, very good friends of mine come up to me in my last relationship and say, we don't think you should marry this person. He's a great guy. We like him, but you guys just don't fit. And I was so connected. I could not walk away. I could say, I understand you. I believe you. In my head, I can do it. I can see where you're coming from, that maybe we aren't a good match, but I'm already too far in. I can't just walk away from my best friend right now. Yeah. And so by the grace of God, I was able to walk away. But I learned then that really when you're in that like pre-marriage phase where you're just, is this the right person? Are we going to get married? Is this somebody that if I can keep the physical part out, then I'm allowing God to say yes or no. If I'm being intimate with this guy, I'm not allowing God to say, actually, as much as this, like, it doesn't mean that either party is wrong. It means you guys might not be compatible with the giftings that I've given you to like launch into the world. If he really likes taking risks and you really don't like taking risks and you get married, yes, you can be like a half risk taker, but you might actually be like keeping each other from the actual thing that God has like created you to do. Not because either of you is wrong, but because you're just like so different. And God can use differences, but I think there's wisdom in letting him say yes or no. And so I think that's one of the things we did, was we said, we want to give each other permission. If God says no at any point of this relationship, if we get red lights, if we to say, you know what, you're an amazing person and I bless you, but this isn't gonna end in marriage. And so that's how we said it. We think this is something, but we want to let God say yes or no.
Yeah.
So Laura, I'm going to jump in here with a question. What did that decision that you and Marc made together, and the fact that Marc, as a man, which in our culture seems, from a woman's perspective, we've never been a man, but it seems like a really hard thing for men to do. What did that Marc's willingness to follow through on that decision to not kiss you before you got married, you know, your wedding day was the first kiss. What did that do for you as a woman?
It really, my trust level for him is crazy high. I mean, he's super evangelistic. He's super has a heart for people. But if you know, if he said, Laura, tomorrow I just feel like I'm supposed to go talk to this girl named Sally all day about Jesus or whatever, I think I would know that he's a man of character, and I wouldn't have to worry about his motives. Of course, we talk about everything, and we vulnerable, and there's wisdom, but it does really it affected our trust levels. And then after we got married, I think there was a freedom that I think if we had done those things before, I think that it wouldn't have been as beautiful, and it wouldn't have been as safe, I think is the word. Like when we got married, intimacy felt very, very, very safe. And I think before marriage, for a woman, that doesn't necessarily feel safe. You feel like the person can walk, right? And so there's a part of you that is feeling a whole bunch of different emotions in that space. Whereas after marriage, you have a covenant, and you're connected in different ways. So yeah, for me, that was safety.
For the rest of your life.
Yeah, for the rest of your life.
So that's a long time.
Yeah.
I love the way that you brought the trust factor into, absolutely, when somebody has waited for you like that, of course your trust level for everything else in life is heightened. Now I will say, Marc, don't ever go spend a whole day with a girl by yourself. Take somebody with you regardless, but because there's wisdom in that. But yeah, you have established a trust level that would not have been there had you not made that follow through on your choice, right? And so that's beautiful. Now, what I want to do is I want to kind of move us into inviting people to ask you questions, because I'm sure that our participants have questions they want to ask you. But before I do, I just want to say that, you know, most of you know that I've been working with women who have gone through betrayal trauma, through infidelity in their marriages and relationships with their husbands, and work through the pain, and, you know, many different kinds of pains. It's not just betrayal through infidelity always. Sometimes it's other types of betrayal. But when the trust issue is not there, our relationships can be so fragile and not as strong as God intended for them to be. And so it's really made me ask, like, Lord, what is it about sex why do we live in such a sex saturated culture, and why is it so important that we stay pure, and why did you even establish that for us as Christians to follow through on that? And I've come to understand that there is something so spiritual about the sexual act, and as I've dealt into that deeper, I've come to realize that we're kind of like God wove us together with four corners. You know, we are physical beings, right? And our culture is, you know, we're glorified physical beings from the culture's perspective today, and all kinds of pressures and stressors to you know, focus on the physical. But we're also intellectual beings. I call it the pies, intellectual beings. We're also emotional, and we have to take care of those things as well. But we are also spiritual beings. And as I've looked at the sexual act, and I've looked at the damage that happens when we don't do it according to God's plan for us, it's hard. It's just hard. We have created a lot of hardship. And how do we steer our children in the right direction when there's so many voices out there saying, why not? In fact, even as I was preparing for this, I was reminded of right from the very beginning, there were so many lies that we've been fed. And what did Satan say to Eve right from the very beginning? Did God really say? Right? That was the lie that he gave Eve. Did God really say? And I think we've been using that same lie about sex. Did God really say there's benefits in waiting and in keeping yourself exclusively for that one partner that you choose for life? And so I've come to understand that, yeah, God has such a he's woven in a real spiritual part of our being into the sexual act. It's not just a physical act. It's not just an intellectual act or an emotional act. It's also part of our spiritual being that becomes one with that person.